Doug here from 2+ Stuff, and we are here for another 2+Tomes book review. And with me, as always, is Kenzie. How you doing?
I am doing good.
Good. That's awesome. It's a little early start for us here today. If you are probably someone in Europe is probably watching this in their evening, tell me if you can hear and see us okay, if the audio is, coming in loud and clear. And like I said, we're talking about The Red Feast by Gav Thorpe today. And it's not what I expected, but I did enjoy it. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah.
It takes turns,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not the worst thing we've read for this
Uh,
this club so far.
no. I thought it was pretty good. It was a different take than I was very much expecting. So I'll talk about that. We'll do a non-spoiler review here in the beginning. And so what I wanted to do actually is go to the downward cam, and I pulled up the core book, right? The Warhammer Age of Sigmar core book, where it talks about each of the realms. And if you go to the section on Akshi, it actually has a paragraph on the Red Feast, and all it says is a challenge was proposed by a warlord named Threx Skullbrand. Khorgus Khul was one of the combatants in there, and when the death toll rises to 888 barbarian champions, the air screams, the bloodied water boils. Sorry, still waking up. A cataclysm erupts. So catastrophic, the maelstrom of blood and death that the realm gate at the center of Akshi, the Isles there, explodes, leaving a gaping hole in reality through which legions of howling demons emerge. And so that is the only lore that we had for how Khorne enters Akshi for the longest time. And so my non-spoiler review is when we read what was that stinking book with the Vanguard?
Black Talon.
Black Talon. There you go. Black Talon First Mark. People would ask, like, hey, is this a good Stormcast book? Hey, is this a good Vanguard Chamber book? And the answer is just no and no. Right? It's a great Neve Black Talon book, if that's who you want to learn about.
But even then,
Yeah.
even then,
But I'm saying she was the core theme, whereas I feel like with this, I approached this book being like, oh, this is going to be a great Khorgus Khul book. And it's like, it's just not. It's a good filling in, like it expands that paragraph into a full history of the realms kind of thing. And so it's about Akshi. It's not necessarily about Khorgus. So that's
no, I didn't
my
actually
thought.
realize that paragraph was so specific in there. I do remember the bit about like the 888 champions or whatever. However, it's been like a year since I read the core books, and I remember like when I first got the thing back when Soul Wars came out, I like
Yeah.
read all that narrative section, but then like immediately deposited all that information because I was like, I don't care about any of this. And 1 second here.
Yeah.
All right, I'll see you all later. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that specific about calling out Threx Colbrand and Khorgus Khul and everything like that. I just thought it was like, yes, there was this great challenge on this great place in Akshi, and then 888 people died, and then Khorne happened. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought it was, it's tough. Like, on one hand, there's some things in this book that it clearly lacks.
Mm-hmm.
On the other, I love when GW does this, where they just take a lore bit and then expand it and really dive into it. So that's something that they've done. I mean, that's what the Horus Heresy is. It's a lore nugget blown into 52 books, but like,
And 52 and counting.
yeah, no joke. So like that kind of stuff, I think it's fun. Yeah, they write something cool and they're like, let's examine that. I like that. So, yeah, what were your thoughts on the book as far as like non-spoiler review?
I believe I typed this to someone. It was like as an exploration of like that transitional time from Age of Myth to Age of Chaos, kind
Mm.
of like those kind of cultural tensions that you would think would that like led to chaos on being on the rise. As an exploration of that kind of time period, it's pretty excellent.
Mm-hmm.
But as a in-depth character study of how one dude can be turned to chaos, I think it falls a little flat there.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll definitely get to that when it comes to the spoiler part towards the end. Yeah, so that's our thoughts. If I want to like, I don't like to give things a grade, but I'll say like if you like corn, there's some cool corn stuff in here towards the end. Um, give it. I don't know. I don't know what to give it. It's
Actually, I'm a corn player. Actually,
yeah, yeah.
I'm painting some of my Blood Warriors right now. Um, but even in like the earliest part of it, when they're detailing, I think actually the earlier fights in there
Mm-hmm.
are some of the more striking bits of it, because once you get to the end and corn actually starts coming out, it becomes like hyperbolic to the point of absurdity where you can't even kind of fathom it anymore. But at the start and towards the greater whole of the book, it's pretty in depth about describing everything that's going on, and I describe all that action as like visceral,
Yeah,
because that's what it is.
yeah,
Delicious. I love it.
yeah.
Blood for the blood god.
Yeah. So if you are interested in like the Age of Myth and how these things are almost actually specifically, you're gonna love it. I think. I mean, I'm interested in the history of the dramas before all this went down, so like I liked it. If you're looking for like I said before, Khorgus Khul being an absolute, unit and just going toe to toe with everybody. And there's some cool. There's
Go
really
read the
cool.
first handful of the Realm Gate Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's Khorgus Khul. That's
Yeah.
the Khorgus Khul.
Exactly. Yeah. He's not the one you know from everything else. He's a dude. So
Yeah, he's just a guy.
So now we're going to start jumping into spoiler territory. So what we do in this section is just basically we're going to read you the plot. Not read you. We're going to tell you about the plot. And then we're going to leave... I mean, we always leave some things out. Go read the book for yourself. I always suggest people do. Even if it's not a book that we're super a fan of. But... so the way the book is structured is interesting. There's actually 3 stories happening like at the same time. Well, we're being told to at the same time. And what is it? There's Threx Skullbrand, who, if you know your Age of Sigmar starter box history, he is the Blood Secretor. From the guy with the big totem who, well, he used to plant the banner and now he doesn't have to. And Athol Cool, who one day becomes Khorgus, and then just a dude named the Painter.
He gets a name. He gets a name at
does.
the end of the book. Let's call it what he names himself Lashkar,
Yep.
which is so corny. With the K with KH corny.
Yes.
It's so corny. It's not even funny.
And basically, like every chapter, at least in the earlier book, it really does swing from at least 2 to all 3 of the stories in the same chapter.
I was actually quite disoriented upon first reading it.
Yeah.
I was getting whiplash from all these 3 characters. Like, wait, who are these people?
Well,
Especially like, I was like, Frank Skull. I swear I've heard that name before. And then someone's like, yeah, it's the Blood Scream. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, so he's a cool dude. I was reading it on my Kindle, and like, there's no, I don't know. Did you get the hard copy?
Yes, because
Okay.
I always get the hard copy.
Yeah.
Finally getting paperback for the next one. Thank God.
Nice.
Like $16 as
there-
opposed to 27.
Was there any like dashes or marks to denote like switching from one story to the next?
There was like a little space.
Ah, okay.
There was a little space, yeah.
In the Kindle, it didn't translate, so you just started reading a different story, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, see, this is why I always go for hardback, because when it comes to denoting, it's typically written with hardback in mind, or with the actual book format more in mind, and formatting is important sometimes.
Yeah.
And these kind of stories, so I always go for hardback,
Totally.
and also I enjoy the tactile.
Yeah, and that's not a Gav Thorpe thing. That's a whoever decided to put it on Amazon. That's their publishing house stuff. But whatever.
Black Library.
So, which story do you want to start with first?
Let's start with Athol.
Okay.
Axel.
So if you don't know your Realm of Fire history, basically, in the Great Part, which is the continent that we're shown, I'll go to the downward came here, in the core book. On the left, you have 2 major kingdoms. I think it's Asperia and Batar, yes. And on the west side, you have a bunch of small tribes. And they have various origins from all over the place, different belief systems. Some of them are very cornate before Khorne enters the realm. Like, they're just warrior combatants. They worship the old gods kind of thing, which we would know as Khorne, but they didn't understand that. And then in this region, the religion of Sigmaritism, I don't know, the Sigmar religion faith, is coming through and kind of taming some of these tribes, kind of infecting them just in the way that religions from various cultures infected one another, like when we were doing a colonialism expansion, that kind of stuff in our real world. And so there's this tension of the old ways of tribal living versus civilization and massive industry. And then there's also this tension of religious tradition versus this new thought process coming into the realms and all this stuff like that. So there's a lot of like different layers to the tension. That's what I like about it. As far as this dude named Athol, Athol.
There's no good way to pronounce it.
Nope. He is.
He's like the representative of his small little tribe known as the Khol for the Asperians, which is this larger civilization.
Yep.
In order to like maintain a amicable alliance between their two societies, like Athol willingly offers his weapon, his knowledge as a fighter to the queen of the Asperians. Huma Huma Nuka Nuka Akwa.
Yeah. Her name was brutal.
It reminded me of a High School Musical 2 song, like that was Hawaiian themed. It was silly, but he basically offers his service as a fighter to her in order to balance out that kind of relationship there.
Yeah, it is cool.
Interesting.
The way the tribes kind of work together, like I think it's the Asperians.
Yeah, the Asperians are like the big boys on the block.
Yeah, they provide food and like water and that kind of stuff. And then the Khul are like a secondary tribe. We're like, hey, in exchange for that, we'll give you warrior might and protection and stuff like that. And so that's kind of how they work together. And as a way of sealing that bond, one of the Khul becomes like the spear carrier, like the I don't
ceremonial.
know. Yeah, duelist champion, whatever, of that kind of mutual society. So he's an important dude. He is of the Khul, the more primal warrior-like people, but he works closely to defend the more civilized folk who have a Sigmarite priest in them. And he has a lovely wife who's super BA.
Yeah, she was pretty cool actually. I was like, man, she cool.
Yeah, she can fight her herself.
I like her a lot.
And a small child loves them both very, very much. And basically what kicks off this domino effect is a guy from Batar, the major civilization to the west. West. I think I got it backwards last time, but so he goes and tries to steal a bunch of cattle from Asperia. And so Khul, being the champion, honor bearer, was like, I'm going to defeat this guy in combat. The guy says, I have a champion of my own. I want to fight for my honor. Oh, thank you so much. I didn't see who that was, but thank you. At this point, like the fight is set between this champion and Athol. They duel. Athol decides not to kill him. They become buds. Things kind of escalate. I'm not going to go into like the politics of all of that stuff.
There's a little bit of tension between him and the rest of his tribe where they're like, I don't see why you have to just be friends with the Asperians. Why can't we just go and fight stuff? And he's like, but we're not fighting because we don't want to get destroyed. There's all sorts of little bits in there, and then this guy, the Batari champion, his name is like Ser Leon.
Yep.
They become friends, and they have like some more discussion about the nature of like empire and everything like that, which is kind of interesting. But ultimately, it builds into that theme of that kind of like the civilization versus the more tribal traditionalism. Builds into that kind of tension, but ultimately, debatable where it ends up.
Totally, yeah. And so like he goes and I feel like he had a great idea of how these tribes work and their like government and political structure, it's very hard to explain like in a review. So I'm going to skip a lot of that. I realized I was kind of getting into the weeds a little bit, but basically what happens is the conglomerate of Asperia and Khul, right? Those tribes are pitted against a what we know as a Tzeentchian sorcerer, or a collection of sorcerers called the Tithe Masters. That domino effect kind of led to bringing in these people, and Athel actually spears one of them like a Tzeentchian wizard. This is when chaos is just starting to poke its head into the realm. So like weird mutations are happening, power that shouldn't be there is kind of here and there. And then seeing this threat, Khorgus is like, okay, I need to go get reinforcements. I'm going to go call. I think originally he wanted to call the Red Feast, but then somebody beat him to it.
It's like he suggested calling the Red Feast, but then all the elders are kind of, or actually no, one of the elders suggested calling Red Feast, and then the rest of them were like, no. Okay. No, let's not do that.
Yeah, and the Red Feast that's when we're introduced to the idea of it. It's basically you get all of those crazy smaller tribes in the region together. They have a huge a gladiatorial tournament basically, and the winner kind of like gets to, I don't know, make a wish basically. So it could be
they get to basically decide kind of like the course of the Flamescar Plateau. It's kind of like, all right, I win. Here's what y'all are gonna do for me.
Yeah, and when I say make a wish, I mean like we're gonna unite to fight this enemy. We're going, my people need new land. Like you just get a deciding factor, is what I mean.
Yeah.
And so Khorgus ventures off to go basically accrue an army to be able to fight off what we now know as the Tithe Masters. Magua Man, yes, it is exactly like Mortal Kombat.
It kind of, yeah.
So
it is kind of a little bit like Mortal Kombat.
Yes, but
Mortal Kombat. Does that make Khorgus Khul Shao Kahn in this scenario?
I mean, I guess technically it makes him Liu Kang, which is like the good guy.
Oh.
At this point, he's still Liu Kang. So.
Okay, but then he turns into Shao Kahn.
Yeah, and so because we yada a lot there with Khorgus Athel's story, I will say that like he's presented as a good, honorable person. He stays his temper. He's good to his wife and child. He's good to his tribe. He tries to be a voice of reason in a bunch of aggressive barbarians.
He's actually not combative.
Exactly,
which is like wild to me.
He is extremely skilled in combat, but wants it to be a last resort. So like the fact that he was the one who set off this domino effect is kind of a big deal.
It leads to a big turn that's kind of like the fact that he's established as this very honorable kind of like upstanding dude, and then like immediately turns his heel to turn into what we now know as Khorgus Khul is like
we'll get there. We'll put a pin in his story till now.
Yeah.
So the next story I want to talk about is Threx. Now, do you want to tackle the Threx Skullbrand?
Yes,
arc?
Because this was honestly my favorite part of the entire book. So we pick up on Threx Skullbrand, and he's going off to fight one of his the nearby tribes called the Korchians, because the leader, this guy named Yorag, which is a silly name, and apparently like insulted his mother. So he musters this army to go and smack this other tribe for insulting his mother, which is super ironic.
Yep.
I'll get to that. So he does so, and with his little band of friends who advise and help him out, he ultimately does win and get this chief to apologize, and so he goes back home to this place called the Asha Vale, which is like a set of islands in this little river, dominated by this kind of spirit of the pyre, which we find out is later connected to Khorne somehow. He goes back and he goes to his father, the king, and the king is like, "What did you do? Why did you do that?" And he's like, but the honor of our tribe. He's like, dude, we
Father
don't
the
care about
king.
the honor of our tribe. And Threx gets like really like upset. He's like, but the honor of our tribe is like the most important thing. So there's this kind of back and forth between them, and ultimately, Threx gets sentenced to go be like a herd guard out in the far fields.
Mm-hmm. He becomes a
So
shepherd.
he's
Yeah.
hanging out. Yeah, so he's hanging out there, and he's like, man, this sucks. And some things go by, and then eventually he's like, what? I'm you know what? I'm gonna go back in there and talk to my dad.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure this out. So he sneaks back in there with his friends, and he goes to confront his dad. But before then, he finds out that um, the spirit of the pyre that his father's supposed to have control over is all been like they've been faking it the entire time
Mm-hmm.
because the spirit no longer responds to them because they've lost their touch essentially. And so Threx gets absolutely like furious and so mad that he picks up his dad and throws him onto the pyre, which suddenly like erupts with flames. And he looks over to the guy who's supposed to be keeping it. He's like, "Man, that's a good job turning on the device when I did that." And then the guy looks back. He's like, "But I didn't turn it on." So,
Can I interject here for a quick sec?
yes, sorry.
No, you're doing great. What I was to say is like where Athel's story highlights like the political instability of the region, Threx's does a great job of like the spiritual one. It's a lot to do with the Sigmarite priests, as the priests are bringing this new religion in. Their old ways, like the crude tribalistic ways of like their king is Lord of the Flame. He's connected to the fire in the realm itself. Like that religious tone is being subdued. So when Threx chucks his dad into the pyre and becomes Lord of the Flame, it kind of takes on like again, like I said, there's Athel with the political. Threx really, I think, embodies the religious aspect, like the spirit of the realms. So I just wanted to
Yeah,
highlight that. So please go on.
yeah. His it turns out his mother is actually the Sigmarite priest of the establishment,
Mm-hmm.
and shortly after that kind of that churn in him, she runs away because she's so like upset.
Yeah.
She runs away off to the Courtians, believe it or not, and basically goes and says, my son did all this nonsense. We have to get together to stop him from perpetrating all this barbarism,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so this huge alliance of tribes gets together to go and utterly destroy Threx Skullbrand's
Mm-hmm.
little tribe here. And he is standing there. He's like, actually, I'm pretty proud of myself. I did. He's like, he looks around at the army runner. He's like, I did this.
Yeah.
Yes. And then he says, talking with his cousin and everything like that. And then he says, you know what? I call a red feast because there's no other way that we're going to win this other than to leave it down to set people. And everyone's like, you call a red feast? Oh, wait, I guess we got to go now.
Yeah.
And so they go all off to the Red Feast, where he ultimately meets Khorgus Khul, and then everything goes cray-cray.
Yeah. So, and then the third one is very, very short. The third story I'm talking about. So that kind of puts Threx and Athel on this trajectory towards one another at this Red Feast. The third story is Lashkar, who for most of the book is just known as the Painter. There's just this scrawny little dude in a cave, and we just flash to him every once in a while where he's doing these crazy cave paintings that depicting like future events, prophecy, that kind of stuff. And his kind of story arc is like there's a power inside the caves there that's kind of like revealing these things to him. And the power goes away, and then he kills a beast man near it, and he learns that when blood is poured in combat, all of a sudden the power reawakens. He gets invigorated, and all of a sudden he can paint more and see more visions. So it's just a very cornate thing, and you don't really quite understand how he fits into the grander perspective until Athel Cole stumbles upon him He's like, "Oh, you're the dude from my dreams," basically, and like, basically, he is the conduit that shows him what Korn is. Right. I mean, he's kind of like the Obi-Wan Kenobi to to Athel's Luke,
Luke Sky.
but in
I
the
gotta go to
worst.
Dodge Station to get some power converters.
And so
Uh,
basically,
and
go for it.
it turns how it turns out is that this guy Lashkar was the guy who was responsible for bringing the coal from Gur, their homeland, to Akshi,
Mm-hmm.
and um,
Which
and
means that he is
he's
hundreds
been
of years
essentially
old.
revealing their destiny as the the heritors of corn and all that business.
Yeah.
It's like this is all predestined.
Yeah, he
Your
is.
destiny, Athel.
Give me one second. Okay, for some reason it said my microphone was off. That's weird. But that means he is incredibly old, and so he's being kept alive by some thing. And we can realize that like the segments that we've seen with him, they could be at any point in time. We have no idea how long this has been going on. And basically, yeah, like I said, he teaches Athel about the nature of blood sacrifice. This is how we can save your people. You want strength? I can provide you with strength, that kind of stuff. And gets Athel to sacrifice. I'm pretty sure it was just a gore, maybe a beast lord, in terms of models, on the rock there. And this is where like this moment is, I think, where the fun part. Was it a Bulgor? It was huge. Yeah, it must have been a Bulgor because it was bigger than the other ones. It's to me where the plot, like the things that we wanted to read about all book, start to happen. At least for me. I mean, I liked the other stuff, but like when Korn possesses Lashkar, the painter guy, and makes the bargain with Athel of like, I will give you a new name. Oh, did you just join again? Hello? Kenzie? Kenzie, you there?
Yes, my thing's starting to kind of glitch out.
Okay.
Yeah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm trying to listen to you through the stream here.
Okay. So
I think I fixed it now.
So basically, like the when Korn presents himself.
Actually, yeah, no, it's yeah. I'm listening to you through the stream. And
okay.
So I'm a few seconds behind.
Okay. So yeah, at some point, Korn presents himself like, and what I like about this is that he makes it very clear, like the bargain is not in any way, shape, or form mysterious at all. It's not like I'll give you power and then like there's like a footnote that the devil leaves out kind of thing, like bargain with the devil. He's very clear. He's like, no, I'm gonna own you, and everything that you do is gonna be for my glory. I'll own you for eternity. I'll give you the power you need, but like you're mine. And when you die, you're mine. So I don't know. I thought the scenes with Korn were very cool. Unfortunately, they basically the only way they can the only way that he Gav Thorpe expresses the power of a god talking is by all caps. And it just drives me insane. What were your thoughts on that? I'll give you a second, and now there's a delay for some reason.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know, somehow something messed up to where I'm not hearing you on the Google Meet anymore, so I'm listening to you through the stream.
No, it's all good. Actually, try it now on the other one, on the other link. I think I just fixed it.
Oh, yeah.
I resent it. Anyway,
as far as the Korn meeting, yes, I really did enjoy how Korn was characterized in that sense. The only issue that I guess have with it is that the change that inspires within Athel and Threx and everybody else who's ultimately touched by him completely kind of like is a complete 180. It doesn't feel exactly natural, like how I would expect these people to act after turning to chaos. It's not a gradual thing. It's like snap your fingers,
Hmm.
blood is all that matters. I'm like, is so Korn himself is fine. It's
Yeah.
just his influence on everybody else that kind of like drag it down for me.
Hmm.
Still love Korn though.
It Yeah, so I'm gonna speed through the rest of the book here because I want to talk about that because what you just hit on because it was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, the
like
rest of the book kind of goes by really fast afterwards.
it really does. Yeah, it goes on super speed. Basically, Athel, he was given a new name, Khorgus Khul now, goes to the Red Feast. Because all the tribes were unified against Threx, he has no allies in this championship event. He meets Khorgus, and Khorgus is like, "Seems like everyone hates you. I will go ahead and be your friend for right now." And so the two of them sort of pair up, and basically they break the rules of the championship or the Red Feast by having a slaughter. They start killing each other the night before, and they basically change the way the Red Feast works to be like, "Hey, if you win, you get to just own the tribes. Like just be the champion." Is kind of how it shifts and pans out. Yeah, and so it's a slaughter fest. There's a lot of fighting. It's really cool. At that night where there's a big slaughter before the Red Feast, what they're doing is purging all of the Sigmarite influence in their midst, and a few other people, but mostly it's the whole point is to purge this infectious religion that is Sigmarism. I don't know what you want to call that, but yeah, and so that when that happens, Korn then appears again through the painter and then makes the same bargain with all the other tribe leaders that he made with Khorgus. So he's kind of bringing this whole army together. When that happens, actually, like I said, I want to speed through the ending and I'll come back to that. So the championship happens. Khorgus obviously wins because he's Khorgus and he's awesome. And just like the end of that paragraph, the book pretty much ends with him at the base of a realm gate that is just falling apart and tearing through, and all of a sudden demons start pouring out. So it really ends when this paragraph in the core book ends.
Yeah, it ends with the demons all coming out and everything like that. And to me, like the last line of the book is like, "Behold the demon legions of Khorne," and it's like that's it. It ends. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, it didn't feel like climactic where it's like, and this was but the start of his.
Yeah.
It just kind of it was like Black Talon where it just stops.
Yeah, well, it's like
It didn't end, it just stops.
I feel like so. I think on the front of the book itself, it says like it's part of a series, and
Yeah.
I would have liked, Khorgus lifted his axe towards the west. I was like, and now we march in Batar. You know what I mean? Like that would be cool.
I thought I would have liked that too, where like hints at his, further conquest rather than just, yeah, we have demons now.
Yeah, exactly.
We have puppies.
And so that's how the book ends. It's just the rising story. Basically, it's the story of how Khorne broke into the realm. Not so much, I feel like, about Khorgus. So we'll go into likes and dislikes, that kind of stuff. What are some things? We'll start positive. What are some things? Actually, no. Let's end on a positive note because I like this book. I enjoyed it. So, what are some things that gripped you that really stood out that you were not a fan of?
Primarily the immense shift in character, specifically with Athol, but it happened with Threx as well, which was probably more disappointing to me because I felt I really enjoyed Threx's whole arc because I strangely like supported him in his desire to like want to bring back the old ways and everything like that, which is yeah.
Yeah. I'll touch on that for
yes.
a quick second. So, like, anytime
exactly.
Khorne, made a bargain or reached out to one of the characters, it wasn't like they were themselves but were changed. It feels like they got a complete rewrite, and that was brutal to read because you spent so much time in the nitty gritty learning about politics and religious affairs with these people, and you kind of get a sense of what their character's like. And then the second Korn reaches out to them, they're different, and you're like, but that's not. It's not like, they unlocked some. It's described as they unlocked some inner feeling they all had, but that was never even broached on before, and so it was just very jarring. It was a super hard character shift for a lot of them. Anyway, that was my biggest thing. So you can go ahead and keep talking, but that was a big thing I wanted to expand upon.
Threx, I could see it happen, but Athel, with how like normal a guy he was, it was just kind of like it just super hard turn where he's like, I don't even care about anything anymore. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that it doesn't even really feel like he made that bargain out of absolute desperation. It's like, because we didn't get any of that journey that he had beforehand. We didn't see him get rejected by any tribes as far as his quest or anything like that. It's just like he meets Lashkar. Lashkar is like, hey, I'm the dude who, this is your density. And he's like, all right, cool. It just sounds like the easy, like this is his first, solution, and it's like the easiest. So he's like, okay, I'm cool with that. So it didn't even feel really like an earned kind of transition. It was just kind of like the solution kind of fell on his lap.
Yeah, and Ryan Quinlan brings up a really cool point in the comments in the chat. He said, I would assume when Khorne takes a hold of a mortal warrior or not, they'd be filled with murderous rage. And that's true, but we're not talking about like taking like possession where like the spirit of Khorne just fills them. They just woke up, like literally when Khorne reached out to all the tribe leaders at that second thing, they just literally woke up on the ground and were like, let's just be different. They didn't kill anything. They didn't fight. They didn't weren't even gearing for a fight. They were just different characters doing different things.
For instance, Athel like makes reference to how much he cares about it. He's like thinking about his wife and his son and everything like that. And then like there's a passing reference to them made whenever he turns into Khorgus, but it's like offhand. It's like it's a very light kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's like that all that care and love and everything that he had just doesn't seem like it even really mattered anymore. And it's kind of like, but that was key to who he was.
Right. Where I feel like if a little more, if the author had brought more attention to like, he tried to remember their faces, but now they seem like distant memories, like as if like his new self was struggling to reconcile his old one, so that we as readers could see that, but it was just like dropped. And so
they didn't even really play up the tragedy kind of. They could have played it up as like, oh no, he doesn't even remember who he was.
Yeah.
It's just like nah, it doesn't even matter.
So that was for me the biggest negative of the book. There was a lot of positives I want to talk about, but that's the biggest one. Did you have any more things that kind of didn't quite sit well with you?
I did not like the whole explanation on how this turn to Khorne was kind of like it was all foretold, whatever. Like Lashkar sits down and he gives Khorgus Khul like a history lesson essentially. It's like, do you remember the world that was?
Exposition time.
It's like, of course you don't, but the world was destroyed and the winds of magic coalesced into the realms.
Yeah.
And blah blah blah. But there was something else that survived, and it's like, okay, what? And essentially boils down to, this isn't like a thing that's happening. It's like a thing that was always meant to happen, and you're the guy who's supposed to do. It's the predestination bit that kind of like rubs me the wrong way, because I'm like, that always undermines the actions of the characters. It's like, if it was meant to happen, then like what's the point?
Yeah.
It kind of kills the tension. There you go.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that one as well, because I do agree with you that like I felt it was a little bit too much to be like Khorgus was the hero we needed the entire time, we just didn't know it. But at the same time, I liked that there was something, just it felt very primordial. Like there's just something about the realms that just chaos was always going to come. I kind of felt that with the Beast of Chaos, where it's just like things are just broken, and so this is just always going to happen, which I kind of like. It's more with him as a painter in the rocks than it does with
as a broad concept, the inevitability,
Hmm.
to borrow a word from best friend Nagash, the inevitability of it doesn't seem like it's not a bad thing,
Hmm.
but it's just a matter of like how specific it was in this scenario that was like, okay, it's like, yeah, Corn's gonna come back, but we don't know how. That's probably, I think that would be more appropriate if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was very direct. It's like, no, you Athol Call, you must become Khorgus and
Right.
herald destruction, whatever. And he's like, okay,
Cool.
sounds legit.
So let's see. Only other thing that I wasn't a fan of was and I have this complaint. Maybe I'm just getting old, and I don't know. I just turned 30 yesterday,
Happy birthday.
but I feel like there's just these authors dump so many names that, like, for the first few chapters when Athol's kind of in the political scene, kind of debate. I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't know who in the heck is talking. Like, there's no reason it couldn't have been limited to 3 people. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
queen.
Or just
Um,
give them like title. Just give them titles.
yeah,
You
exactly. So,
know, when
but
I write, I typically
they just
stick to titles.
they just flood you with names. Now I had that same complaint with Soul Wars, and there's a lot of characters, and I'm like, maybe I just feel like I'm just getting old and I'm just complaining about the same thing over and over again. I don't know, but
Yeah, no, it's well, I'm also getting that way, but I'm still young. But it's a matter of it's like I don't these people aren't important. Like when you name somebody in my book, it's like when you name somebody that person you establish them as a person who is going to be significantly like
hmm,
important to the narrative and everything like that.
yeah,
If to me, if it's like a one-off kind of dude, or if it's like somebody who's not really going to be crucially important to forwarding the narrative,
hmm,
then don't even bother. But to me, I can rationalize. Fantasy books in general have a tendency to overname people, but I think it's for a point of immersion, maybe, or just kind of building that setting
yeah.
out is kind of like giving you the what a kind of almost examples of like names in this society or anything like that. It's what I can kind of that's what I can kind of rationalize it, but I still don't think that it's a good thing overall.
Yeah, totally. And so was it Oak's Hand says, I feel like the mass of characters came about after Game of Thrones. A lot of books I've picked up recently have the same issue, just random name drops all day.
I don't know. I thought that was like a thing from like yeah. I want to say I tried reading some of the old Forgotten Realms books.
Oh, I never even tried. Yeah.
Um, I had like Legacy of the Drought given to me. I was like, okay, and so I started reading like the first chapter, and of course, it names like a bunch of people. I was like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I dropped it soon after. But I think that was like that's just a fantasy thing. It's like where they name everyone.
Yeah.
But I can certainly also go for that Game of Thrones thing too, because the cultural impact of that is just ridiculous.
Totally.
Ugh.
As far as things that I liked, moving into that, um, things I liked. One, I loved from the 2 different stories we have of Khorgus and Threx, getting an idea of what this area is like, both on a well, one is political, right? I think Threx really embodies like this is how all the tribes have to function together. And there's some cool stuff there. Whereas I feel like Threx really embodies like the spirit of the people there and the religious
Mm-hmm.
tones, that kind of stuff. I love that. I didn't know that I wanted that, but I did.
Exactly. Well, I enjoy me some politics and like
Hmm.
political dealings and spirit. I enjoy that part of books, and whenever like you don't kind of give care to that, I'm like, oh, I get a little sad, especially when it's
Yeah,
like meant to be something that's supposed to affect more than just the individual characters on that.
totally.
Um, and especially in this kind of setting that we got where things are often like vague and you need a little bit of clarification, this is really excellent as far as getting that um, getting that clear.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, what do you want to create a society in the realm of fire? Well, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's rough.
I have the book
Rough
for
living.
you.
Other stuff that I liked. What was it? I like any scene that Korn's in when he speaks to the prophet or whatever, the painter, is just, I like it. I think he does a great job of conveying like the theme of how momentous and scene stealing Korn is when a god
It's true.
descends.
It's true.
And there's like what, 2, 3 scenes like
Two.
that.
I'd say there's like, oh no, there's three because it's like one when he first meets Khorgus, one when he's turning on the champions,
Yep.
and one at the end where
Yes.
he's like, "Look at all my demon puppies."
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. So there's 3 scenes where I just like he's just everything, and so it's cool.
Oh.
How about you? Stuff that you liked?
I actually like the Beastmen.
That's interesting.
Threw it out there. Cause for as much as they are, I guess disposable for lack of a better word, there is a strange amount of character there. Don't click off. It's real. The painter encounters this one kind of like dog, human hybrid thing that he initially bops to get the corn thing working, and then it comes back and it's like, and it essentially kind of challenges him to a duel, but like without actually having to say anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. So you can kind of get a glimpse at that intelligence, that like small amount of intelligence that a Beastman has, and fleshing out like, and if you an idea for how they act as entities and how they can actually have character and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
It's cool stuff. Okay. Anything else you want to touch on, highlight, and then we'll go kind of into, I guess, ranking it.
There's a guy over here who's talking about the lost corn artifacts with the last forge that the Cole have, where they have to like they give a little prick of their blood and it powers on and makes these like really cool weapons. And then there's the fire that Threx has, where you can like reach his hands into it and pull it out, and it's like, yeah, guys, look at me. And then there's the blood mountain and everything like that. So as far as like, it has some ideas on like how you could do some corn artifacts. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to there is some stuff for you if you're a corn player.
Yeah.
But not like as much as you're expecting. How's that?
Yeah, it's strange because like you can see a corn-ishness to a lot of like the primal tribes like traditions, but when Khorgus separates from those tribes and goes and has his, I don't know, religious awakening and becomes a servant of corn, that at that exact moment, his tribes at home are not doing that. So they're just kind of basic things. So the things that we see in AOS, right, when we play corn armies, must have been when he came home and then twisted those traditions. And it's kind of an interesting thing. So you can see the kind of the seed of them, but they're not quite the same thing that we know in the game currently.
I think Threx is a better kind of thing to go off of as far as like how a society can be it can be corny, because he mentions several traditions that they had back in the good old days that he wasn't around for of they used to take the skulls of their enemies and physically like brand them to be like, yeah, don't mess with us. Yep. So you can see that kind of influence without it actually being like full blown. So if you're writing a Khornate society that like currently exists in the realms and everything like that, it shows how they can function as a people while still being corn. Dedicated, which is good, because I personally struggle with coming up with corn mortal societies that aren't just complete
Oh yeah, that's part of the problem. That's one of the things that lacks of the battle tome is like everyone's a raving psychopath, but it's like no, they function. I mean, like they work as a tribe. Cool. That's awesome. So, we're gonna go ahead and start doing our rating. If you in the chat have questions about the Red Feast by Gav Thorpe, go ahead and ask them, and we can answer whatever. Kenzie, where would you rank this book?
I think it's not Black Talon, above Black Talon. A little like a half step behind Soul Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Because but it's kind of hard to compare those two because of how vastly different in scope they are, and like what they're out to achieve. Because Soul Wars is out there to achieve like this big forwarding of a grander narrative, whereas I mean, in comparison, Red Feast is like a little snapshot or like a little zoomed in version.
I mean, at its core, it's kind of like a historical drama where it's just like the point is to tell you what happened, but it's going to do that through the story of these three people, basically.
I could totally see that actually as like one of those like historical thrillers that are out there now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yes,
I would love to see. So like, it made me look at the history of the other realms. And I was like, oh, I want to see this for Guran when like Nurgle busts in, and the same thing for like Realm of Metal when Tzeentch twists, and like I don't know, there's some cool stuff. So like the idea I think is really really neat.
Yeah, I think I would be interested in really seeing that kind of whole arc of Alariel going from like I can do anything to oh my god I messed up so bad I gotta go.
Seasonal depression level deity.
Let's call it. Can we call the book Seasonal Depression?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Okay, so you put it above Black Talon but below Soul Wars?
Yes.
Are those only 2 books we've done so far? This is number 3? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that as well. But it's because so much has changed. In the time that we started this, I graduated. I got enrolled in college.
Yeah, life happens.
I painted so much. I painted so many models.
Let's see. For me, I think I do the same. Like, I personally found it more interesting than Black Talon because it has a bigger scope. Like, there's just characters I like. I like Threx. I like Khorgus. I love when GW does this for 40K and AOS as far as, like, take a lore nugget, expand upon it. Like, I find that very interesting. That's like putting a microscope on something. So, I do definitely rate it higher than... I mean, if nothing else, it's not... A third of the book is not just people running like Black Talon was.
I still kind of like recommend Black Talon fully because I had so much fun reading it and making fun of it as I read because it was so mediocre. Which is it's better than I can say for Faith and Fire, which is a 40K book. Because that one just disappointed me.
It's not
whereas
bad
Black
good.
Talon,
It's just
it also disappointed me, but it disappointed me in a way to which it was like actually it was kind of humorous.
Fair.
Even though Faith and Fire has some excellently cringy lines in there, so much so that I got one of the plastic sisters that came out for Warhammer Day, painting it as the main character from that book and writing on the bottom the quote that it's so ridiculous. You talk too much.
I love it.
I'm writing that on the base. It'll be delicious.
So yeah, that's kind of how I would rank it. So yeah. What else?
It is. Apocalypse comes out today. Exciting. Exciting. Movement trays. I'm actually very, very excited because I have a block of 40 Blood Reavers that I really don't want to move anymore, so
that's funny.
I might get me a box of those.
So I got a few questions in here. Oaksan, so is there some place I can find the books you guys are reading? Yeah, if you follow on Facebook or Instagram, or I try to post pictures here on the community tab on my channel as well. So the next one we're doing, and I'll go ahead and just announce this now, is Play Garden. So that's a very popular book. It has an audio element to it, so people who like audiobooks can follow along there. And we'll be doing that at the end of the month. Hopefully, I I don't know. I had some scheduling issues. What is it? The 6th now? Yeah. I had some scheduling issues that kind of got in the way, but that's all right. So hopefully we'll be more on track next time. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
doing.
I'm hoping I'll be available around then because things are starting to get a little bit musty with that. I'm gonna have to be like moving soon,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I
whatever.
think I'll be able to make it like at the very very beginning of August because everything's staying normal for a bit.
Cool.
A
Cool.
bit.
Cool. So yeah, that's what's going on. And then Awesome Bob Rex asked the question on Chaos God scale. How would you rank it? What order would you put in Nurgle, Zinch, Khorne, Slanesh?
I'm saying no, rank the book. I'm thinking I'm ranking the book a corn out of 10.
Or Cornet?
Yeah, cause I mean it's like half a corn. It's like half a skull. I give it like out of the full skull, I'm giving it a go from like the jawbone up to like the eye, the occipital lobe here. I give it like half a skull because it's not the full one.
Yeah. Right on, right on. Okay, well, friends, thank you all so much for joining us. It was a good book. I do suggest you go ahead and start reading it. Jack, at Reeling Once just hit 10K. It's all golf clap for Jack. Yay! They did it.
Yay!
Um,
Yay!
and so I do
You did
recommend
that like getting close to 20K now. Ooh, ooh! Keep up, real
to,
ones.
to fame. No, they're doing a great job. Absolutely
Yeah,
awesome. I'm
yeah,
very happy
yeah,
for them.
yeah.
So go ahead
Get
and
Corn back on the channel.
grab Play Garden. You can follow along. I'll post some updates throughout the month on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff. And we will catch you all next time. Thank you so much. And happy wargaming.
Woo!